Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So this is it. My final review, Married at First Sight, season 9. This is episode 15, The Reunion. So, of course, let me give my shout outs to my new subscribers, K Cash and Marvine Meb Cried. Thank you guys so much for subscribing. And I want to say thank you to everybody that subscribed, everyone that have left comments. I absolutely love interacting with you guys. I love reading your thoughts, even the ones that didn't agree with me, it was all good. It's good seeing different views. Same show, different views. It was all good. So I appreciate it. Anyway, okay, so we have made it to the reunion, and we start off with Iris and Keith. Okay, so the host Kevin, he sits down with them, and first question he asks is what qualities did they see in each other that they felt the experts got right as far as matching them. So Keith says the fact that they both were into working with kids. That was it. That's all he said. And I remember thinking, like, Keith, this is not some type of employee workshop, where they're like, okay, everyone that like working with kids, y'all go over there. We're gonna have y'all work in a group. Those who like working with adults, it's like what? So then Iris chimes in and she says, she felt like they both loved the thrill of life, and they both, the longevity of what they both wanted out of life. She felt like they both wanted their views on future with kids and having a family. And she just felt like her and Keith had so much in common. They were so compatible in a lot of ways. And it's like, okay, you're saying that, yet both of you failed to list any of them at that moment. He's talking about working with kids, and you're giving this general, oh, we both love the thrill of life and we want kids and families. But there was to me, no specific qualities of each other, I felt. So anyway, so they started playing clips, of course, of the wedding and just along the way. So they showed a few that jumped out in my head is the playing the dice game, his grandmother's passing, him announcing that his grandmother had passed, the edible gel, all of that. So Iris, she starts tearing up. So Kevin asked her, why are you crying? And she let it be known at that time that she still cares for Keith. So Kevin asked Keith, how does that make him feel seeing her emotional like that? And Keith was like, yeah, she's who I know her to be, caring and um, considerate and compassionate, and that he appreciates that. So we get into the decision day. Okay, so Iris said that she said she felt like she was pretty much blindsided by Keith's decision, because she said that he was setting it up like, yeah, she's this, she's that, she's great, but I don't want to stay married to her because she doesn't have enough relationship experience. Now, Iris was saying, she learned a lot. She would do it all over again. But she said that she would change one thing, and that would have been to push Keith to open up more about how he felt about her virginity. So, not just surface conversation, but a deep conversation about his concerns and what truly was the issue. Like, why was this such an issue for him? So, Keith, he comes with a response, and he's like, not having sex was fine. And, her making the decision to save herself is one thing, but he felt like a person should know themselves to a certain extent sexually, to know what they want prior to getting into a marriage. Because he felt like if not, then what you're doing is you're allowing the other person to pretty much create or dictate the intimacy in the relationship, which I guess could cause problems. So Iris is like, yeah, she may not know what it's like to have sex, but she wanted to have that experience with him, whether it was going to be during the 8 weeks or after the 8 weeks. At some point, she saying she felt like it was going to happen. So, she was like, that's why she came on the show to get married, because she knew that eventually she wanted to have sex with whomever this person was they were going to match her up with. So she was saying like she felt like her and Keith really, connected. But that she feels her virginity is what pretty much ended it for them. So Keith was like, no, it's not. It wasn't just, it wasn't sex. It wasn't your virginity. That's not what he was saying. He was saying that her behavior, her maturity towards anything, it were things that it had nothing to do with sex. So, for example, he gave the whole condom situation, and he was saying, her reaction to it at that point let him know she wasn't ready for a husband. That was a red flag to him. So of course Iris was acting all surprised, like, what, really? That you talking about the condoms? But he was saying that that was one thing that he had to take into consideration. He's like, look, we only had 8 weeks to get to know each other, figure this out. So basically everything that was happening, he was filing it away in his memory bank. Like, I got to take all this into consideration to decide whether or not I wanted to stay married to her. So Ira started asking him, well, why didn't he have this conversation with her? Um, instead of waiting to now to say something, she was like, she felt like if it was something, if those things bother him to the point where he was holding on to them as far as helping him to decide if he was going to stay married to her or not, why not discuss it with her so that she could fix it? Because she was saying that she was willing to fix whatever it is he had a problem with. Um, anyway, so he was like, his response was, how do you fix emotional maturity in 8 weeks? So Iris starts getting emotional again, and she's like, you fix it by continuing to try beyond the 8 weeks. So she was like, she felt like he didn't care enough to even try, and that's all she's asking for. And again, that if it bothered him so much, why didn't he just talk to her so that she could fix it and they can move on in their marriage? So anyway, so it seems like at this point he's getting a little tired of the back and forth. And I guess because he's already made his decision, so it's like, why are we rehashing this again? Now, I don't know what he thought the reunion was going to be about, but I guess he didn't think that he would have to sit up here and basically give his reasons all over again as to why um, he didn't want to stay married to her. So anyway, so he finally admits that he did not want the responsibility. He did not want the responsibility of having to teach Iris. That was not his intention, and it wasn't even her. He was like, he had no intentions of being anybody's first. He didn't want to be responsible for establishing the intimate foundation for anyone. Um, he was saying that, he just had no desire to do that. He also was saying how, you know, the intimacy, it was all about intimacy. So it wasn't so much sex. Now, mind you, he started, so at this point, Iris is like, okay, well, she started grilling him. She's like, okay, you keep saying intimacy. What do you mean by that? And everything he was saying, he was like, it doesn't have to be sex. It can be nonverbal, just laying there with each other, being there for each other. or doing some physical things but not actual sex. So Iris flipped the script and was like, okay, well, didn't we do all those things? Wasn't I there for you? I guess meaning, in terms of his grandmother's passing, like, wasn't I there to console you? Didn't we do some things, some physical things? And so Keith was like, basically, like, where are we going with this? Because and I guess he wasn't expecting that. Cause she was like, "Hey, this is what you're saying, and I'm saying back to you, these are the things we did. So what is the problem?" So anyway, Kevin asked, "Okay, so where are you guys now? What's going on with you now?" So Iris said that they're still talking, they still do dinner, and then Kevin asked, "Okay, are they hoping that it will lead to some sparks?" Because I guess you look at it like, if y'all divorce, well, they weren't divorced, but if it's over, Keith decided that he wanted a divorce, but yet you guys are still talking, you're still meeting up for dinner. So he asked, okay, are y'all hoping that it leads to some sparks? So Keith said it would take some change on both parts. And Iris was like, that's what she wants. That's what she wants to happen. So Iris is still holding out hope that they will get back together and make things work. So Kevin asked, okay, he asked Keith right now if, well, he asked Iris. He was like, if Keith says right now he wants to stay married, he wants to make this work, what would you do? So Iris is like, well, she would want them to go to counseling to work to see if they can work it out. Um, but then and then she's like, but he gonna have to show me that all the issues he listed are no longer issues. So basically, everything that he was complaining about, as far as why he wanted the divorce, he would have to prove to her that those are no longer issues and they can move forward. So Kevin asked Keith, does he miss Iris? So he said, yeah, he missed her. So Iris started grinning. I mean, she was just like a kid in a candy store. So then here comes the question. So he asked, okay, in the future, after Iris has had some life experiences, would you date her again? And that kind of put me in the mind of, what are their names? Jasmine and Will. Because remember, Will decided to divorce Jasmine, and then he was like, maybe they can like date afterwards to get to know each other. And Jasmine was like, okay, who does that? Who gets married, divorced, and then decide to date to see if you want to be married? So anyway, so Kevin asked Keith, he was like, after Iris been out there and experienced the world, would you want to date her again? So Keith was like, uh, you know, he doesn't know. And Iris was looking like, okay, she's thinking, because see, here's the thing. Everything that he said intimacy was, Iris is like, okay, we've done that. Then he's like, well, she hasn't had enough experience with relationship, not necessarily sex, but relationship experience. And now the host is saying, okay, well, if she goes out there and she's dating and she gets some experiences under her belt, would you consider getting back with her? So they're basically setting this all up, right? Everything that you're saying is wrong, is an issue, is a concern. We're telling you, if we fix all of these things, where do you stand with her? So they kept pushing it. And so Keith was just like, he still doesn't know. So Kevin, the host Kevin, was like, look, Iris is here. She's ready today to leave with you as her husband. So Iris was shaking her head. Yeah, like, so she had all intent to come to the reunion to win Keith back. So Keith just came on and was like, look, he don't think he's ready for a wife right now, and he doesn't think Iris is ready to be a wife right now. Iris quickly responded. She was like, you cannot speak for me. Which I didn't think he should. You speak for yourself. If you're not ready to be a husband or ready for a wife, then just speak on you. Now, it's funny that Keith said that because there apparently, I don't know if Keith posted or if there was an interview, but apparently there's this fan page on Twitter, and there was a little insert of Keith basically saying that he did not voluntarily audition for this show. He was contacted by the show. I will insert a screenshot of it if I can. I'll insert it in here. I'm just showing you guys that little piece. So, and not only that, but Keith is also a music artist, a rapper, what have you. He has there's a little clip of his music on YouTube. I will try to put the link in the description box. So knowing all of that is, but you know what? I've heard rumors before that the show was actually recruiting guys like from dating websites. But now in the little screenshot that I'm going to show you guys, is it doesn't indicate, it's actually kind of cut off. It doesn't indicate how they approached Keith, but apparently he was contacted by the show. So that kind of explains some things. I don't know. Maybe he, even though he was contacted, maybe at some point he felt like, okay, this would be cool. Maybe I will fall in love. But I don't know. I just have a problem with if you did not voluntarily come on this show. I just have an issue with that. And I'm just wondering why the show allegedly did that or would do that. So as far as the whole music thing, of course people were talking like, is that why he came on the show to, further his career, to get attention? And I don't know. I hope not. I hope not. But anyway, so yeah, so Keith was like, he doesn't think he's ready for a wife, and he doesn't think Iris is ready to be a wife. She shut that down. And then Keith was like, look, this, I'm going by what I think. This is how I feel. Then he turns to Kevin. He says, so I would say no. Like, no, he does not see them getting back together. He doesn't see him, trying to date her, regardless of how much experience she ends up with. He doesn't see it for them. So Kevin looks at Iris and says, okay, so I think that's what you needed to hear. And Iris was like, yeah. And I'm confused because I'm like, okay, but he said that at decision day. I mean, he didn't say all of that, but he said no, that he wanted a divorce. So I don't know what more she needed to hear other than he talked about her maturity or what, regardless of the reason, honestly. This is just my opinion. Regardless of the reason, you're telling me you no longer want to be married to me. You're not even trying to get to know me any further to see if you want to stay married. That's all I need to hear. You don't even have to give me no details. So anyway, so Iris is saying, she's going to continue to have fun and live her life, and she's still hopeful she'll find her husband. So Keith says he's not currently dating. Then Iris is like, okay, but are you having sex? So Keith is like, what? What kind of question is that? And then, Iris showing her maturity. She's like, I'm just saying, since you wasn't getting it, in your marriage, I just want to make sure you good. Are you good? She's just giggling. So Keith is like, yeah, yeah, I'm good. Thanks for your concern. I'm good. She was like, okay, I just wanted to make sure, you're welcome, ex-husband. And he's just shaking it. He's smiling, but he's just shaking his head like, like this chick. So anyway, moving on to Deanna and Greg. Um, okay, so they're showing the wedding clips and different clips along the way with the honeymoon and just throughout the 8 weeks. Now, when I first saw Deanna, I was like, okay, maybe the rumors were true because I don't know if you guys have heard, but there were rumors that Deanna was pregnant. Now, Deanna had picked up some weight. She was looking a little fluffy in the face and in the belly. So I was like, okay, maybe she is. Um, but anyway, so they come out and come to find out it's not her, it's her sister who is expecting a little boy. But Greg and Deanna seem to be doing pretty well. Of course, she moved into his house. Sandy is loving the backyard. um, and Deanna said, I love you first. Now imagine that, right? Imagine that. But she did. She did say that as far as kids, they wanted to wait a year and a half to 2 years before they even go there, which is good. There's no need to rush. But she said that when she told Greg she loved him, he didn't even respond back, which is very odd because during the show, we saw how Greg was, really into her, and he even asked her if she loved him. So, of course, you would think he would either be the first one or he would immediately respond with the same if she said it first. But he didn't, and it's so funny because the host Kevin was like, "Okay, so when did you say it? Did you ever say when did you say it?" And Deanna was like, she was helping him find um his Ray-Bans, and when she found them for him, he turned around and was like, "Oh, I love you." It's like, what? So of course Greg is like, "Really? Is that when I said it?" She was like, yeah, that's when you said it." So all in all, they seem really happy. Things seem to be going well. Um, yeah, I hope they work out. I hope they work out. But anyway, Matt and Amber. Okay, again, the wedding clips, and then they go right into the drama. Um, with Matt not coming home, Amber having her crying fest, and when they sit down with Kevin, so Kevin was asking about the feelings and about being married, and Matt reveals that he knew early on it wasn't going to work. So they were like, okay, how early did you realize it? This fool said the first 15 minutes. In the first, but you know what? Even when they show clips, Amber was so, oh my gosh, she was on 10 at the ceremony, all over him, and he did seem uncomfortable. But he said within the first 15 minutes, he knew it wasn't going to work. So, of course, Amber was like, well, if you knew that early on, how could you sleep with me? And I don't know why any woman would ask that question. He Men are not emotional creatures. He doesn't have to be in love with you. He don't even have to know you. Okay? Not all men, but for her to, in her mind, it's like, well, how could you sleep with me on the second day? So they had sex the second day if you already knew in your head it wasn't going to work. So Matt comes with the BS and he's like, he um, felt like he was, trust the experts. He believed them when they said, it's going to take some work, some compromise, to make this work. So he's trying to put it on the experts. Like, okay, I wasn't feeling it. I had concerns, but however, um, I was willing to see where this goes. So she said she felt like he was playing with her emotions. Like, why would you do all of this knowing I would become attached? So Matt was like, look, I want to try and play with your emotions. Um, he just wanted to see where things were going. Like he had the jitters. Like this was all new for him. So of course he was nervous. He didn't know if it was his nerves or what, but he just knew early on he had some type of anxiety about it. So Kevin asked Matt about the first night that he stayed out. And he was like, he asked Amber, he was like, how did you feel? What did you think the first night, first time he stayed out? So Amber was like, she felt disrespected, um, confused. And so Matt was like, well, it was all new for him. He didn't know about her abandonment issues. And Kevin was like, wait a minute. Like, aside from all of that, this is your wife. Like, and you didn't think she would feel some type of way about you staying out all night? So then Kevin asked Matt, he was like, like he just cut straight to the chase. He was like, look, were you cheating on her during the 8 weeks? So Matt denies it. And then Amber let it be known that one of Matt's friends, one of his boys, actually came to her and told her that Matt was cheating. So Matt had this look on his face like, oh shit. I mean, it's one thing to say, I heard or somebody told me they saw. No, his boy came to her and told it. So, Matt was like, oh, okay. Like, at that point, he knew he was caught. It was no point in lying. I mean, they were already, he already said he didn't want to, well, no, she said she didn't want to stay married. So they were already on the verge of divorce. I guess Matt was like, look, whatever. I'm just here, you know, I'm just here for the reunion. He's not trying to rehash nothing. He didn't even really want to answer questions. So Matt was like, oh, okay. And then after that, his whole demeanor started changing. You could really tell he didn't want to be there at that point. So anyway, Amber says that, with Matt leaving, how she felt bad. She felt bad. She was like, it was different people coming to her, including, she did mention about the teachers at her job, but she was like, she was just hearing it from different sources about him, um, the fact that he was cheating. So Matt was like, look, he basically like, look, there's nothing else to say. He's apologized. And so then Amber's like, well, can you apologize to me right now? So Matt was like, look, all right, I'm sorry. I apologize if I hurt you. I didn't mean to hurt. And so Amber just cuts him off and was like, well, look, I don't like the callousness. He looking like, what? So what she was saying, it's almost like she had in her head what she was going to say to him, but it was coming out at the wrong time. Because when she said it, it came off like she was talking about she didn't like the callousness of of his apology of what he was saying, but what she was talking about was being cordial. She was saying how Matt act like he hates her. And so she's like, look, I just want us to be cordial. She wants it to be where when they're out in the street, she wants to be able to be like, hey, Matt, what's up? Hey, ex husband. Just childish. And so Matt's like, look, that's all well and good, but not right now. Like, he's saying he's still trying to process everything, um, the whole experience. And he's just not there yet where they can just see each other on the street and just start chit chatting. Because she was like, she didn't want to come off like they were strangers. Like if they see each other out and about, she didn't want it to be where they're ignoring each other. So her whole thing was, I married you. Like we were married once, so I want to be like, hey, what's up, what's up, ex-husband? Now my thought is, I get what she's saying. Yeah, you should be cordial. Okay, saying hi is nothing wrong with that. However, if he's in a relationship, or even if he's not, even if he's out with his boys, nobody wants to be out and about and you coming up behind him or running up to him. Hey, ex husband. Don't nobody want that. And y'all know Amber would do that. She would, because she want everybody to know, yes, I was married to him. So anyway, Matt was like, look, not right now, maybe one day, but right now, just I just need my space. Like, leave me alone, basically. So Kevin was like, okay, do you hear what he's saying? He's talking to Amber at this point. He was like, do you hear what he's saying to you? And Amber was like, yeah. So Kevin said, well, why would you want to be friends with him? Like, this dude is dogging you out right now. He's dogged you out through the 8 weeks. He's still dogging you out. Why are you so pressed to be friends with him? And so Amber's like, they don't have to be friends. She's not trying to be his friend, but she would like for them to be cordial. So anyway, to wrap that up, Matt is still living with his buddies. Saying he's still trying to figure himself out, figure out his next move. Amber says that she has now got her own place. Then she adds, yeah, I got my own place by myself. And I'm like, Amber, I know you ain't trying to drop no hints. I guess when Matt said he's staying with his friend, Amber's letting it be known, look, well, I got my own place. Because I guarantee you, if Matt wanted, I bet if he called Amber up and was like, hey, look, can I come crash at your place? Y'all know she would let him. Y'all know she would let him. So anyway, on to Jamie and Liz. All right, so again, they're showing the clips of the wedding, the honeymoon, and then the drama. Um, so they were talking about where they are now. Well, talking about their relationship after decision day, and Jamie was saying, still up and downs. He mentioned that one of her dogs had got really sick, that they thought that they would have to put her down, and he was saying how it caused a lot of stress on their marriage. Liz was stressed out about her dog, which caused stress on their marriage. So Kevin was asking Liz, I guess he thought they were joking. So he was like, because Liz was like, look, I was stressed out. I wasn't even trying to deal with him. I wasn't trying to hear him, listen to him, see him, whatever. So Kevin was like, okay, like, I get that your dog was sick, but this is your husband. And she was like, whatever, her dog was priority over her marriage. And of course, Jamie had this look on his face like, so she was like, my dog been in my life longer than my husband. So at that point, it was all about making sure that her dog was gonna make it out. I think the dog was in ICU for 4 days. So she was like, look, I was focused on that. I wasn't even thinking about this marriage. So anyway, so they had broken up during that time, and they ended up getting back together. They were saying how, but Jamie was like he didn't want to do it without her. And they just and Liz was talking about how they have so much fun together. They really like being together, and they were kind of, they basically were saying once the cameras were off that things had kind of eased up for them. So Liz was saying, oh, Kevin was asking them about their communication as far as, their arguments, disagreements, whatever. And Liz was saying, they no longer take it to the extreme levels like they did before, like we all seen. So she was saying how Jamie checks her and basically puts her in her place when she's being a brat. So his name, they call him the master of clapbacks. And she was saying, once she realized that, she was like, that's what she wanted, basically a challenge. And she said, once she starts going in, she has to check herself, and she's like, oh wait, I shouldn't talk to him like that, it doesn't feel good. And look, to each his own. I mean, if she, there are people who want challenges. So if she wants a man that's time enough for her and won't let her walk all over him, I get that. It's just the whole he checks me and basically, puts her in her place when she's acting a certain way. I don't know. I just didn't like the terminology for that. But anyway, so Jamie moves in with Liz, and they're saying they're doing good. They're saying everything is fine. They're doing good. So now all of the couples are out on the set. They're all together. And so then Kevin is like, who's surprised at the outcome? So Deanna says, she was really shocked about Iris and Keith because they mesh so well. They seem to click. And that goes back to when I was saying how when they will all get together, like Iris, whenever Iris talked about her relationship, she made it seem like everything was straight. Like they were just, this perfectly happy couple. Um, Either that or she wouldn't say anything. Like when Amber and Liz started talking about the problems, like, the guy's not coming home and all of that, Iris would get real quiet. Like at the cabin, she got really quiet. Deanna wasn't saying anything because Deanna didn't have those issues. But other than that, Iris would make it seem like her and Keith were all good. So when Deanna said she was shocked that they didn't work out because they seemed so compatible and they seemed to click and mesh, it's because they didn't know what was really going on behind the scenes. Now Liz, with her crazy self, the comment she made at the cabin, like during her confessional, when she said, something seemed a little off about them at the cabin, she was like, they come off as this picture perfect couple, but she could tell there was more going on. And I think at the cabin, they there was some tension between them. But anyway, so then Liz chimes in and she's like, she's still in denial about Keith and Iris. But she has a good feeling like their paths are gonna cross and they're gonna be back together. Iris loved the sound of that, so she's smiling. And so then Keith is like, okay, how come nobody said anything about Matt and Amber? And I mean, it's like, dude, everybody knew the drama between Matt and Amber from day one. I mean, it was very obvious how distant, he was from her. So then somehow the conversation, the focus goes back to Liz and Jamie. So Kevin is asking again, who is shocked? He was like, who's shocked that they stayed together? He was like, of all people, Jamie and Liz, who's shocked that they stayed together? So then Iris says, everyone knew that they had deep feelings for each other, but it was just, the way they communicated. Basically, their fights and their arguments in front of everybody. She's like, the way they communicated sometimes had you like, oh my God, let's call 911. But they all figured it was just their passion. So then Greg was like, yeah, they had a lot of passion. They just need to learn how to, um, direct it and just scale it back. So then they started. So Kevin was like, yeah, they've had some public outbursts, in front of everybody. And they started playing the clip at the racetrack and the aftermath. So remember at the racetrack when Liz was talking while the instructor was talking, and Jamie told her to shut up. That was a big blow up. And then afterwards, the next day, when they were at home, and she pushed the table from under his feet and went off. So they show those clips. And at first, they was showing everybody's reaction. So some of them had like shocked look on their faces, like they've seen them have arguments, but I think when they showed the footage of them in the apartment having their blow ups, everyone was in shock. So after they showed the clips, you could hear a pin drop. Everybody had their face down. They were looking down. Nobody was making eye contact because it was uncomfortable. It was very uncomfortable. So Liz started explaining how a lot of the details were left out, I guess, when they were doing the editing. So she was saying, a lot of the details were left out, and basically she was left looking crazy. So Jamie, being who he is, so he starts poking, and he was talking about the racetrack incident. He was saying how, I guess they had an argument on the way, and how Liz had came off, smart mouth him. He said twice in the car on their way. And so Liz was like, yeah, I was a little mouthy, whatever, in the car. And so Jamie was like, okay, well, what did you expect? Like how did you expect? How did you think it was gonna go, and you coming off at me some type of way? So at this point, you could tell Liz is embarrassed. She's embarrassed. She's agitated, and she was saying how it was emotional watching that footage, and how it's like, I guess they're beyond that now. They're past it, and so to sit there and watch it, not only watch it but watch in front of everybody, um, she said it just brought back a lot of hurt and emotions, and she doesn't like watching it. So Kevin was like, he was trying to press her buttons and still ask her questions. He was like, okay, well, you're saying that a lot of stuff was left out. We don't know the details. So now is your time to give us the details. And Liz shut that down. She was like, look, stop pressing me for answers. I don't want to talk about it. Let's just move on. Like, please respect that. So he did. He backed off of it. So then they got back to Iris, and they were talking about Iris and her virginity. And so they were asking, well, Kevin asked all of the guys, he was like, how would you have felt if you were matched with a virgin? And they all pretty much had the same answers or reaction that Keith did. Like, nobody, Greg pretty much said what Keith said verbatim. He was like, look, it could be a lot of responsibility, a lot of pressure, and but none of them said that they wouldn't have mind. Like, nobody would have wanted to deal with that, you know. So I was made a joke about, okay, she's a divorced virgin now, she's real special now. So um then they got on back on Amber and Matt. They got back on Amber and Matt, and they were saying, who was surprised and what did they all think about them not lasting. And so Liz let the cat out the bag that I guess they have mutual friends. She was in Charlotte is small, and they have mutual connections. So she was like, she's been hearing about Matt and the stuff that he was doing. Um, so Kevin was like, okay, stuff like what? And she was like, oh, stuff that I didn't want to have to repeat to Amber. But she refused to say. She's like, look, that's between them. I'm not gonna get into that. I'm not gonna talk about it. Um, so anyway, so that was that. It ended with Jamie and Liz making their announcement saying how they were moving to California. Now, my thoughts on that, I think it could be a good thing, it could be a bad thing. I feel like she is going to be totally isolated from her friends and family, what I call her support group. And she's not going to be working for her dad, which I don't think she ever was. I don't think she ever ended up working for him. But so she's not going to be working for her dad. And she did say she was going to try and explore some career options, whatever. But my issue with that is you're all the way across the globe, just the two of you. 9 times out of 10, you're not going to be working, or you're going to find, some part time or whatever. The problem with that is, yeah, their relationship is still toxic. It probably will always be toxic. And now you're isolated with him, going to be totally dependent on him. And it's not going to be so easy for you to just up and leave. You know what I mean? So I mean, to me, it's kind of like the classic move of a controlling, abusive man or person, period. They isolate you from your support system so that you are solely dependent on them. But anyway, that is it. Again, I appreciate each and every one of you, for those who have subscribed, those who have left comments. it was fun. Make sure you come on over to my Married to Medicine videos. And Married at First Sight is coming back in January. So I'm expecting to see each and every one of you back on my channel so that we can start off again with watching Married at First Sight. They're going to be DC, which is going to be real interesting. Now, they showed clips of the people. I must say I was a little surprised at what I saw, but anyway, we're not going to get into that. Thank you guys again so much, and until next time, take care.